What up, y'all? Back again. So today I'm going over insane asylums that were in the 1800's. These are in America. There was over 200 of them. And some had just one in their state, and some had like multiple or dozens. But when you look at these structures, like the windows going into the ground on almost all of them. Okay. And it's interesting because some people believe that after the mud flood, whoever was left was separated from their children. That's why there were so many orphanages, and then they had these insane asylums. But I disagree. I believe there was so many orphanages because these children were coming out of these cabbage patches in a weird way. That seems to what has been the case in the 1800's. That's where the Cabbage Patch Kid came from, because somehow we came back like that. I know it sounds strange, but look into it. You'll find that even the first movie ever made was a lady pulling live babies out of Cabbage Patch. And anyway, these could have been indoctrination centers, but they were almost all emptied by the 1950. They say because of, medications and things that cleared them up. But when you look at the architecture, it's, again, some of them more simple looking, but they still have that old world type architecture. A lot of them are ornate like this and this. I mean, they have a lot of extras on them that show that they're from the old world, and then they have the windows going into the ground as well. Some are very, very ornate, and others just look not so much. But it's something to talk about because they're not in existence anymore like they were, and it's almost like they were the first colleges, right? Maybe. And when you look at actually colleges, those are structures that were founded as well. But nevertheless, there's windows. Look at the windows on almost every one of these structures. They're going into the ground. We didn't, in my humble opinion, build any of them. We found them. And just like everything else, they took all the equipment off of them, made them ready for us, and put smokestacks on them and started building what seems to be everything was combustion all of a sudden. But it seems strange, very strange. But I could have did a video much longer than this because they just go for days, these insane asylums. There's tons and tons of them. I'm just showing you many, but there's a lot more that I'm not showing you. I just picked a bunch of random ones. They just wouldn't build structures like this if it was an insane asylum today. But we know these are structures from the civilization before us because the windows are going into the ground. The thing that gets me is that nobody's talking about this worldwide catastrophe that sunk all these structures. And that in itself should be an area that you clue in, not to mention the ornateness of maybe not so much these as much as all the other structures, though. The the dome structures, and then you had the Antiquitech, the no ice and snow for 1,000 years, and how they added the time to the timeline. And then everything just re-ramped up in the 1800s. It just seems like everything started in the 1800s. If you look back, I mean, it's almost like everything that's been invented was invented from the 1800s to now. Everything that was created as far as tools and equipment, computers and vehicles, anything, it was like all of a sudden made or created since then, even conveyor belts and things that should be very simple. But at some point in time in the old world timeline, they built all these amazing structures, but they had very few people and very few ways of communication, very few ways to construct them. And then the fires that burned down so many cities in the 1800s, and the maps that have changed, and how we couldn't find the pyramids and like Machu Picchu or Easter Island until the 1800s. The empty cities, California being an island, America not being found. I mean, really. But then you got cities like New Orleans under the water. I believe that was a mud flood situation, as well as Venice being underwater. They became that way. They were above sea level at one point before the catastrophe. Or you got Italy, Rome was being dug out, and as early as the early 1900s. I mean, really. But the windows going into the ground, the whole first floor of a lot of these structures, and then they just built stairs going into the second floor. A lot of these are top heavy because they were longer structures that sunk. Very eerie when you go back to the 1800s. I mean, but beautiful. And then they try to make these sound like they're haunted because they just want you to think of them a certain kind of way. And that's one of the narratives that's been put out. But really, just makes you wonder. Maybe they were indoctrinating or educating these children a certain way that were coming back, our ancestors, to the narrative of the history they wanted us to know. I don't know. You tell me. But something strange was going on just by looking at the faces of the people in the photos in the 1800s. The fact that you had just nothing but horses and wagons amidst these structures should talk to you. And the lack thereof of bathrooms, that's another one. Or the height of these structures that were built for people taller than us. It's just really strange. It's like the barbaric times we're just coming out of. That doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you for watching. Give me a like, subscription, follow me. Thank you. Follow me on YouTube, Revelation End 505. And Soldier Up Productions on YouTube and TikTok.